up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb, and welcome to the Rehab Christian Center Tuesday night virtual experience. I am grateful to be here with you tonight. It is my hope and sincere prayer that everything is well with you, that your Tuesday and week has been going great and blessed, and just know that I am excited that you have chosen to tune in with us tonight. Do me a favor, I want you to start liking this video, sharing this video. I have another, of course, very powerful message that I want to share with you that I know is going to bless you in a tremendous way. And just grateful for your presence here tonight, wherever you're tuned in, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, regardless of the network. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing with us tonight. We're going to be talking about resentment and bitterness. And this is going to be a quick but a very powerful message that I'm excited to share with you. And again, just grateful that you've taken the opportunity to share with us tonight for life study. Life study is the midweek fuel that is necessary for you to continue to grow and develop in your life. If you don't eat during the week, even if you're on a diet, even if you're fasting, if you don't put something in your system will break down. And that's how life study works. That's the importance of life study. We fuel ourselves during the middle of the week so that we can be sustained throughout the week. Sunday, unfortunately, is just not enough. And we have powerful word here on Sundays, but Sunday is not enough. If you only eat once a week, you're not going to survive forever. Pastor Jason Trussell, it's good to see you, man. I just happened to see you in the comments. It's good to see you, my brother. And I hope you're doing well. I mean that sincerely. I love Pastor Jason. And so good to see you, my man. If you don't fuel yourself during the week, you're going to starve. And many people are starving because all they're relying on is Sunday morning. And Sunday morning ain't enough to keep you full. I don't care who told you otherwise. I don't care what you heard otherwise. A Sunday morning is not enough food to keep you full. And so life study during the week is so critically important for you to remain full throughout the week so that when the enemy comes in like a flood, and he will, then the Spirit of the Lord, that's inside of you, will lift up a standard. The standard doesn't start external, it starts internal. I don't have time to really break that down the way I want to, but I hope you caught what I'm saying, right? When the Spirit of God is inside of us and things go left, it is the Spirit of the Lord that is inside of you that then creates a standard or places the standard in your life that fights off the enemy. So midweek life study is critical. It's critical. And I've said this a million times. I'll say it again. I might like Tuesday night life study more than I like Sundays. I'm just going to be honest with you. Our messages are already very candid and direct. We've always preached and spoken that way. But there's something special about Tuesday and getting that meal during the week that sustains you for the rest of the week. And so thank you again. I know that was a very long monologue, but thank you again tonight for tuning in. Let me walk through the networks really quickly. And then we're going to dive right into the word tonight. And again, I'm just so grateful that you've taken the time out to share with us and to be with us. Facebook, good evening to you. Those of you that are tuned in via Facebook, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you're on Facebook and you have not done this already, I want you to like this video, okay? I want you to like this video on Facebook. And then I want you to hit that share button. Hit the @ symbol, tag 5 of your friends, and tell them to tune in tonight. All right, would you do that? If you are watching via Facebook, I want you to like this video. I want you to, if you really enjoy this ministry and this broadcast, I want you to hit that like button, hold it down, turn it into a love button. And then I want you to hit the share button, hit the @ symbol, tag 5 of your best friends, family members, whomever, and tell them to tune in. Maybe you've got coworkers, you've got people in your life who have dealt with bitterness and resentment. Tonight's going to be such a practical lesson, such a powerful lesson, and I really feel like teaching tonight. I'm excited. I am just excited. The amount of revelation that has really come to me in my life over the last couple of weeks has just really been astounding, and I really enjoy studying. It is through studying, it is through meditation, it is through really honestly putting work in on yourself that God then begins to reveal so much to you. And so I'm excited to teach tonight. This is going to be powerful. Instagram, good evening to you. It's good to see you virtually on Instagram. If you are on Instagram, do me a favor. I want you to like this video. I want you to hit that heart button. Let me see the likes showing up on this video. And then if you're on Instagram, I want you to hit that @ symbol. Tag 5 of your friends, family members, tell them to tune in. Also, make sure you say good evening in the chat area, and that's for all of our networks. Say good evening in the chat area. Occasionally, I get a chance to get down and see your comment, and but it's a lot to control when we're trying to stay on top of everything. But make sure you say good evening. But again, good evening to you, Instagram. I want to especially shout out Instagram. Our numbers for Instagram have really been rising over the last couple of weeks, especially on Sundays. Our Instagram numbers are starting to rival our Facebook numbers. And I know we've got some people that from Facebook that jump all over the place, but just grateful for those of you via Instagram that tune in, and also that not only tune in, but share our video on Instagram. We are really appreciative of you sharing this broadcast with so many of your friends and loved ones. YouTube, good evening to you. Those of you that are tuned in via YouTube, thank you so much for joining us and for being with us tonight. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor. I want you to like this video. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, and this is for anyone, you can find us on YouTube by typing TheREHABCC. No spaces. Go to the search bar, type TheREHABCC in your search bar, and you will see our channel come up. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification icon so that you can be notified every single time we go live. And we want to make sure that you can not only be notified, but that you can go back and look at the archives of all of our messages, especially since the pandemic. We've got a few things on there pre-pandemic, but every single message that we've taught since the pandemic is on our YouTube channel. And if you're anything like me, I was telling us an employee today who shared some very exciting news with me that I'm going to break out to you a little bit later. But I was sharing with him every single day, I probably listen to at minimum 3 hours of self-help videos every day. That's in addition to listening to things that are spiritual. I oftentimes go back and listen to the messages that are taught, because believe it or not, oftentimes I'm teaching to you, but I'm also teaching to myself. And if you teach, you understand that all too well. But I also listen to other people who teach on a variety of different things. Why? Because you have to make an investment into your own personal development. You have to make an investment into your own personal growth. You have to make an investment into your own spiritual development. If you can't go to the bank and pull out any money because you haven't made a deposit, the same is the case for your spiritual growth. You can't expect to pull anything out of you spiritually if you have not made a deposit. And what is happening is so many people are finding themselves in the fight of their life, and they're calling on a God that they've never made a deposit to. Are y'all listening to me? So many people are in the fight of their life and going through battles in their lives that are bigger than anything they've ever experienced. And they are attempting to call on a God that they've never made deposits to. And if you cannot go to the bank and pull out money without making a deposit, you, even in your spiritual life, cannot pull out from you that which you have not made deposits into. And so I want to challenge you every single day. I was telling this young man, at minimum of 3 hours. It's probably more, and this is not an exaggeration. It's probably more along the lines of 8 to 11 hours a day. Because when I'm at work, I'm at my desk, whether I'm working in the office or home, I've got my headphones on, and that's playing in my ears while I'm working. If I'm not, on calls, when I'm working out, it's in my ears. When I'm walking, it's in my ears. I'm just addicted to bettering myself, because I recognize that you cannot pull out of you that which you have not deposited. Okay. We talk about the scripture that talks about stirring up the gift that's inside of us. What Paul tells Timothy, a young, vivacious, eager Timothy who wants to preach God's word. And he says to him, stir up the gift that's inside of you. Paul could never have made that command to Timothy if the gift was not already inside of him. And you've got to understand that if something is not inside of you already, you can't stir it up. So this is for all of you that are calling on God in situations in your life. And I'm not fussing, but just hear me out. And this isn't in my notes, but it's clear we need to be led here. and this is for all of you that are in situations in your life where you are calling on God and it seems like there is no response, but could it be that you are trying to pull something out of you that has not yet been deposited in you? Are you listening to me? Is it possible that you are trying to pull out of you something that has not been yet deposited in you? And so I want to challenge you every single day to make a commitment towards your personal growth, your personal development. It's so critically important because it certainly it ensures that when you need help the most, you've got something in your reserves by which you can pull from. All right, and so make it a daily habit to really invest in your personal development, your spiritual development, your spiritual growth, your personal growth, your professional growth. You should be dedicating yourself to your craft every day. I don't know a musician that's, as a former musician, I don't know a musician that's a professional musician that does not play something every single day, unless they're on vacation or taking a day off to rest. Every single day they're at their craft, right? So I don't care if you are a musician, you're a teacher, you work at the post office. I don't care what you do. Every single day, you ought to dedicate some time towards your professional development, your professional growth. What you don't dedicate time towards, you will never get better in. And that includes your spiritual development. That includes your spiritual growth. That includes your ability to mature from a spiritual standpoint. And many people are struggling. It's just it's painfully obvious. Many people are struggling because, again, when they need it the most, and they are attempting to pull from a source something that is not even located in the source. And you've got to make those deposits if you want to grow. Listen, I want you to type in the comments tonight's subject, resentment and bitterness. Would you do that for me quickly? Put it in the comments, resentment and bitterness. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I want you to put that in the subject area. And this is going to be powerful. I am just so excited about what we're going to teach here. And again, just grateful that you have taken this opportunity to share with us. All right. Resentment and bitterness. I don't have a particular scripture text that I'm going to come from tonight because I'm going to kind of be all over the place, but I will give you some scriptural references as we go along the way tonight. All right. But I want you to put it in the comments. Resentment and bitterness is what we're going to deal with tonight. And again, as I promise you every single week, you're going to be literally the smartest person at the water cooler all week long. Let's talk about this. Resentment and bitterness, in my opinion, are very closely related. They're very closely related. And the reason why they are very closely related is because resentment and bitterness are two things that often reside from offense, right? Remember, we spent the last 2 weeks talking about the spirit of offense. And when we think about the spirit of offense almost always serves as the root cause of resentment and bitterness. All right. I want you to record that. That's a mouthful, but I want to give it to you again. The spirit of offense almost always serves as the root cause of resentment and bitterness. Again, the spirit of offense almost always serves as the root cause of resentment and bitterness. This one more time, third time. The spirit of offense almost always serves as the root cause for resentment and bitterness. It is the spirit of offense. And so we have to understand this. When we understand this, then we know that we are uniquely positioned in our lives. We are uniquely positioned in our lives we are uniquely positioned in our lives to monitor how we allow things that offend us to impact us. Okay. Because one of the crazy things about resentment and bitterness is that they are two C's that really reside inside of you. Okay. Yeah, you can see resentment on a person. I'm going to talk about this in a second. You can see resentment on a person. Yes, you can see bitterness on a person. But just because you can see it doesn't mean that's where it starts. Like resentment doesn't start on your face. Bitterness doesn't start in your expression. Bitterness starts inside of you and then manifests itself through your expressions, right? Manifest itself through your disposition, manifest itself through the ways you engage with others, and frankly, the way you allow others to engage with you. And so it is a seed that's planted inside of us that then begins to reveal itself outside of us. All right. And so when we see resentment and bitterness, oftentimes we can't see the offense. All we can see are the repercussions of somebody being offended. I'm going to say this again. Oftentimes, when you see resentment and bitterness on a person, you cannot see the actual offense, but you can see the repercussions of them being offended. And that's what resentment and oftentimes how resentment and bitterness shows up. It is, I want you to record this, resentment and bitterness is the result of being attitudinal. Okay. It's the result of what I call being attitudinal. Long word. All right. Resentment, bitterness is the result of being attitudinal, meaning hot one day, cold the next. Hot 1 minute, cold the next. Good 1 second, not good the next, right? Oftentimes, and of course, other things can be going on in your life that can cause you to have hot and cold behavior. But I found out almost always that when a person is dealing with the spirit of offense, and it has manifested itself through resentment and bitterness, you see inconsistent behavior. And most people who are inconsistent in the way in which they engage with people, the way in which they treat people, especially the way in which they allow themselves to be connected to people, almost always in that person's life. If you do if you do some research, if you do some soul searching, you will find the root cause being the spirit of offense. Somewhere along the line, somebody has offended that person. And through that offense has manifested itself through resentment and bitterness. Right. And so you don't understand why your coworker is so moody, but your coworker never got over the breakup. Okay. Because they never got over the breakup. That offense that they experienced through the breakup planted a seed of resentment and bitterness inside of them that now manifests itself through how they engage with you at the water cooler. Is this making sense? That's very practical, right? And so I don't want to be too scientific tonight, but I do in many ways want to just be very frank and educational in that if you don't deal with the things that offend you, those things will eventually deal with you. I want you to record that. If you don't deal with the things that offend you, eventually the things that offend you will deal with you. Are y'all listening to the old man? I need you to type this. Again, going to be the smartest person at the water cooler all week long. If you don't deal with the things that offend you, eventually those things that offend you are going to deal with you. And that's how we see resentment and bitterness. We see resentment and bitterness because it is, as I mentioned in the last 2 weeks, dealing with the spirit of offense. The spirit of resentment and bitterness almost always is a reflection of unresolved pain, right? When a person has experienced pain that they have not resolved, it almost always then transforms into resentment and bitterness. And a lot of people are resentful and bitter, not because they are bad people. They are resentful and bitter because they are hurt people. Are y'all listening to me? They are resentful and bitter because they are hurt people. And so when you don't deal with that which has offended you, you then become offensive. All right? That's good. That's good. When you don't deal with the things that offend you, you in turn then become offensive. And there are a lot of people that are walking around offending people, not realizing that the key to them being better is dealing with that which has offended them. Deal with what has offended you so that then you and your hurt don't become offensive, so that you and your pain don't become offensive, so that you in your journey through life don't become offensive. This has to make sense to somebody. Let me put it in layman's terms. So many people say the phrase hurt people, hurt people. That's where that comes from. Because the whole idea of the phrase hurt people is that if you don't deal with that which has offended you, you then turn around and become offensive. And oftentimes you become offensive in the very same way in which you were offended. Is this making sense? If you don't deal with that, I want to say that again slowly. If you don't deal with that which has offended you, you then become offensive. And oftentimes, you become offensive in the same manner in which you were offended, i.e., you were cheated on. You weren't healed from being cheated on. So then you turn around and become a what? A cheater. If you don't deal with that which has offended you, you become like the offender. Are y'all listening to me? Right? This has to be powerful tonight. I told you, I really truly feel like teaching tonight. And I hope this is making sense to you already. Right? You've got to deal with that which has offended you so that you don't become like that which has offended you. That seems like a tongue twister. Let me say it again. You've got to deal with that which has offended you so that you don't become like that which has offended you. Okay? You've got to deal with that, right? Or this is how the abused become abusers, right? I've got friends who work as therapists, counselors, coaches like me that are licensed clinical social workers. And we have these kind of nerd talks and conversations all the time. I'm a nerd at heart. I love being a nerd. And we have this conversation all the time because we talk about how when people have been abused in their lives, if you don't deal with the hurt and the pain and the offense of being abused, what happens? Those people tend to grow up and do what? Abuse people. Right? So when you don't deal with that which has offended you, you then turn around and oftentimes replicate the behavior. And this is what the spirit of resentment and bitterness does. When we don't deal with offense, it plants that seed, right? That makes us resentful of the abuse, makes us bitter because of the abuse, right? Makes us angry because of the abuse. And so then if we don't get healing through God, through counseling, through therapy, whatever it is, if you don't get healed in the space that you've been offended, that resentment and bitterness then becomes the issue of everybody around you, because then you go from being offended to being the offender. Gosh, is this making sense to anybody? So good to see you, Sister Ashley. We're praying for Sister Ashley Spencer, her family. She lost her grandmother. And those of you that are members of Rehab, especially when we were in person, Sister Ashley's mom was a very faithful visitor of our church. She might as well have been a member of our church. I love her to death. And we are praying for her, Sister Ashley, her mother, and losing her mother. And we want you all to know that we love you tonight. So we gotta deal with that. Okay. Now, I want you to record this. Inconsistency in how you handle others probably reflects resentment and bitterness. Inconsistency in how you handle others. I hope I didn't give you this point before. Inconsistency in how you handle others probably reflects offense. So how do you respond to people that may be offended by you, but they choose to avoid you? It's crazy. That's a great question, Elder Missy. How do you respond to people that may be offended by you, but they choose to avoid you? I think people have to grow and mature to a place where they don't run. I think one of my favorite rap songs is "She's a Runner, She's a Track Star. She gonna run away when it gets hard." I like that song, and I love the hook because there's a lot of truth to that when we think about how people respond to crisis. It's I don't have time to deal with this, but we can have a conversation about the fight or flight response, because most people, when crisis hits, when offense hits, we either go into fight or flight mode. And when you go into fight or flight mode, you're making a choice to either confront it or you're making a choice to run away from it. And both choices have repercussions. Both choices have outcomes. And I can't necessarily say that one choice is better than the other. There are certain situations you deal with where it is better for you to fight. There are certain situations that you deal with where it's better for you to take a flight, which means run away, walk away. Right. And so I think the choice that we make very much depends on the situation that we're in. But I'm really speaking, while that's the case, I'm really speaking more to people. And I think Elder Missy's question really speaks more to people who are habitual runners, people who habitually run away when they're offended, put up these walls when they've been offended. Don't allow the offender to address them. Don't address people that they offend. People oftentimes do that, and they do it habitually. And if you are a habitual runner, that can oftentimes reflect a much greater issue that's inside of you. And so I think that's an excellent question there. But when it happens, you have to draw that line and toe that line and really ask for discernment of knowing when to approach and when to retreat. This is very important. You got to find and toe the line of knowing when to approach and when to retreat. One of the things I've learned in my personal experience is that when people have been offended around me, I have learned to measure the situation and know when to approach it and when to retreat, or when to just simply be still and allow time to pass. And I think oftentimes discernment teaches us how to do that as well. Okay. This is big. And then I got to give you three things and I'm done, because this 7:34 time really flies. Look at this. I want you to record this. You ready? I've discovered this about people who struggle with resentment and bitterness. Okay. And I want you to record this. This is going to be really good to you. The spirit of offense, people who are operating in resentment and bitterness, who have the spirit of offense. I've discovered that resentment and bitterness makes you more argumentative and defensive than it does peaceful or humble. This is a mouthful. I'm going to have to say this 3 or 4 times so you get it. Resentment and bitterness makes you more argumentative and defensive than it does peaceful or humble. Resentment and bitterness makes you more argumentative and defensive than it does peaceful or humble. Okay? When you are operating in resentment or bitterness, that makes you more argumentative and defensive than it does peaceful or humble. It's a mouthful, but it was worth repeating several times, because let's just break it down real simple. When you're resentful, when you are bitter, folks that are resentful and bitter love to argue. I know some people that there is never a bad time or a bad day to be in an argument. Some folk like to argue. Some of y'all are not lawyers, and you should have went to law school with the way you like to argue with folks. Some of y'all live for an argument, and your day ain't made until you can take a conversation or a situation and create an argument out of it. Some people are naturally argumentative. Let me take that back. Some people are consistently argumentative, not naturally. They are consistently argumentative. And oftentimes, people who are consistently argumentative are dealing with deep-rooted resentment, deep-rooted bitterness. I'm going to tell you to ask yourself tonight, if you're one of those people that are always arguing with people, you always picking at people, you always nitpicking at people, because some of you are saying, well, hey, I ain't argumentative. I'm not, I don't always pick at folk. No, I'm not argumentative. I'm not always looking for fights to start. Well, are you nitpicky? Are you always picking at stuff? Are you always looking for something wrong in a situation? If you are, you're argumentative. It's the same thing. And people who are argumentative and who are nitpicky tend to be people who are dealing with deep-rooted resentment, tend to be people who are dealing with deep-rooted bitterness. It's the truth. And so when you're dealing with that, you become more argumentative. One, you become more defensive. People who are very resentful, people who are very bitter, are also people who are incredibly defensive. And I was talking to a colleague about this a couple of days ago, and one of the things I was sharing with him is, you're going to know you're growing, even we're in a professional space. But whether it's a professional space, a personal space, it doesn't matter the space that you're in. You're going to know you're growing for real, honestly, when people offend you, but you're not quick to be defensive. Because you can be offended and not be quick to be defensive. And that's okay. Okay. It is okay if people offend you. I want to say this slow. To be offended is normal. To be offended is to reflect your humanity. Where we mess up is when we allow offense to then drive us to being defensive. Is this making sense to anybody tonight? We mess up when we allow offense to drive us to being defensive. So I'm suggesting to you that it is okay. Um, it is okay to be offended, but it is not always okay to be defensive. Right? And the way we differentiate between those two things is by controlling the way in which we find ourselves handling our offense. And it's simple. When you handle offense with resentment and bitterness, you're going to be defensive. You're going to be defensive. And let me help y'all. Let's just cut to the chase. I just had a little conversation with my kids. It was a great conversation. We were talking about some things. And, I just had a great conversation with them. And look, I want to just share with you all briefly kind of the nutshell of what I share with them. And that's this. Y'all, look, you grow to a place in your life where you don't feel like you have to explain, defend anything. There is a sweet spot in your life where you become so focused on what you're doing, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your purpose, where you are you become so focused on that stuff that literally you don't even allow yourself to be distracted or become defensive about anything. You don't feel like you have to defend nothing. You don't feel like you have to defend anything. You don't feel like you have to respond to anything. This is the big one for many of y'all. You don't feel like you have to have the last word. Some of y'all are still in this space in your life where you feel like you got to get the last word in. And if you don't get the last word in, then the argument can't end. No, man. Sometimes you grow to a place where you be all right letting people have the last word, even if it's the wrong one. Because listen, y'all, just because somebody has the last word doesn't mean they got the right one. Who made up the rule that because somebody has the last word that they got the right one? The Bible tells us in the book of Proverbs, let me help you. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs that everybody, and I paraphrase this, I read Proverbs every day. Proverbs like the back of my hand. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, and I paraphrase that everybody sounds right in court until the cross defense, until the cross examination. Everybody sounds smart in court until the cross examination. See, understand this. Just because you got the last word doesn't mean you got the right word. And just because you have a word does not mean you have the right word. Y'all get to a place where you don't feel like you have to explain nothing to nobody. You don't have to justify anything to anybody. You don't have to make people feel better about. Y'all stop that stuff, okay? And get to a place where you understand that when you get over resentment and bitterness in your life, you become less argumentative. You become less defensive. Here's the third thing you become. You become peaceful. When you overcome resentment and bitterness in your life, you really become peaceful. You really live in a peaceful space. Like, it's hard, y'all. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Received some shocking news yesterday. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that a little bit later. We'll put a video out on social media as well. But I'm at a place in my life where it's hard to rattle me now. I've been through too much to be rattled by basic stuff. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Even if it's things that I am connected to, I don't get rattled easily anymore in my life. And why? Because it's a very peaceful place to be in when you don't have resentment, bitterness, hard feelings, anger, none of that stuff inside of you. Things happen to you. You process what happens, and then you allow that thing to roll off of you, and you keep moving forward. And that's what you've got to learn to grow to do. And so many people are struggling to find peace, not because they're not good people. A lot of people are struggling to find peace because they are battling with resentment and bitterness like crazy. Like, they can't get over how something hurt them, can't get over how something harmed them. And they're living in this resentful space. They're living in this bitter space instead of living in a peaceful place. And let me tell you something about walking in real peace. Let me help y'all. When you walking in real peace, you ain't got to make no announcements. That's just like saying you cute. For all y'all that's got to tell us you cute, there's a really good chance on a scale of a 0 to 10, you probably a 1. If you got to tell me every day you cute, you probably not cute. You got to tell me every day you smart, you probably not smart. You got to tell me every day you got it going on, you probably don't have it going on. You got to tell me every day you'll cut somebody, you probably ain't going to cut nobody. If you got to tell me every day that you are in peace and you living in peace, you got to tell us and remind us all of that, you probably don't have real peace. Because real peace, more often than not, makes you more silent than it does talkative, makes you more silent than it does communicative, makes you more silent than it does defensive, makes you more silent than feeling like you have to explain or being explanatory. Real peace don't need an explanation. I've discovered this, y'all. Guess what? Peace ain't a verb, it's a lifestyle. Let me record that. That was good. Peace is not a verb. Peace ain't something you do per se. Peace is not a verb, it's a lifestyle. Now I get it. We use the phrase, don't misunderstand me. Hey, I'm going to make peace with someone. When you say I'm going to make peace with someone, you're saying you're going to do something, you're going to extend the olive branch, you're going to have a conversation to then move into a peaceful place. I get that, right? But the larger context of the word peace, it ain't a verb. Peace is a lifestyle. When you really got peace for real, not only do you not have to explain it, here's the kicker. When you really got peace, people can look at you and tell, ain't nothing wrong with him, ain't nothing wrong with her. There's a lot going on around them. They good. And it is one of the most calm places to be, because you just don't feel like you have to explain. Something came at me last week. It was a request, actually. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything bad at all. It was a request that came at me last week, and I honestly didn't have time to entertain it, and it was pressing for them, and it wasn't pressing for me, obviously, because I didn't have time to entertain it. I have other things that I had to attend to and do. And there was a day that would really bother me, right? Because then I would be thinking in my mind, well, what are they going to think if I don't stop everything I'm doing and deal with that, and stop everything I'm doing and address them, and stop everything I'm doing and cater to their needs? What are they going to think? I used to be like that and on edge like that, and wondering if I offended somebody by, having to, a schedule that's too busy to be able to do X, Y, Z. Let me tell you something. Last week I said, no, I ain't got time. Maybe this week I can, set some up, and, I'll let you know. And I moved on about my business. And it was one of the most peaceful experiences I've experienced in a long time. Why? Because I'm truly at a place where I don't feel the need to explain anything. I don't. And peace goes in the same category. When you really got peace, you ain't got to explain it. It's like beauty. When you're really beautiful, you don't have to explain that you're beautiful. When you got peace, you ain't got to explain that you're peaceful. Your energy, your spirit will reek of it. People will see it. They'll be able to see it in your skin. They'll be able to see it in your persona. They'll be able to see it in your disposition. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Okay? Is this making sense to anybody? Y'all share this video. I got literally 6 minutes, and I got to give you 3 things that make resentment and bitterness dangerous. Okay? Real quickly, and then I'm done. Is this blessing anybody tonight? Fill it up with hearts if it is. Tag somebody really quickly. We got 6 minutes. We're going to pray, sow a seed. Going to share a quick announcement with you, and then we're going to let you go. All right? Is this blessing anybody? I want you to share this video quickly. Share this broadcast quickly with somebody, and we hope it's being a blessing. All right? 3 things that make resentment and bitterness dangerous. Real quick. All right? 3 things that makes resentment and bitterness dangerous. Okay, you ready? Number 1, 3 things that make resentment and bitterness dangerous. Number 1, they are attitudes and dispositions that destroy you slowly, right? We're talking about resentment and bitterness. They are attitudes and dispositions that destroy you slowly, okay? Resentment and bitterness. They are attitudes and dispositions that destroy you slowly, right? They are attitudes. I'm talking about bitterness and resentment. They are attitudes and dispositions that destroy you slowly. When you are resentful, when you are bitterness, you ain't hurting nobody but yourself. And the crazy thing is, it is a slow death. You ain't, you ain't doing nothing. It reminds me, when I think about that point, I think about the movie Scarface. I love the movie Scarface. I've seen it about 100 times. I love the movie Scarface, but it's so sad at the end when Tony Montana dies. And you can tell he has all of this fear built up inside of him. He's got all of this bitterness inside of him, this anger because of how things have turned. And he's popping off at the mouth at the end, and he's doing all of this shooting, and he's fighting these guys back. They're fighting him on the stairwell. He's shooting everybody. If you've seen Scarface, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's shooting at everybody, and he's standing at the top of the steps, and he's talking junk, and he's shooting folks. And then finally he runs out of bullets, and he's just holding the gun, and he's cussing and screaming. And the guys just stop shooting. They stop shooting at him. He's standing at the top of the stairs, and they just stop shooting at him. And he's just screaming and yelling this and yelling this. And what he doesn't realize is what he thinks he's doing to hurt them is eventually about to kill him, because the guy, the assassin, Sosa sends his boy, who walks in behind him with a double barrel, shoots one shot, goes through him, and it kills him. That's how resentment and bitterness works. Some of y'all be making all of this noise and fuss about how you've been offended, but what you don't realize is all the noise and fuss you're making about your offense ain't hurting the people who offended you. It's really hurting you. And normally it's killing you softly. It's killing you slowly. So you've got to be careful with that. You've got to be careful not to allow the things that have offended you to change your attitude, to change your disposition, right? To change your character, because those things eventually over time destroy you. They slow you down, but they also destroy you. Number two, right? We're giving you 3 things that make resentment and bitterness dangerous. Number 2, all right? And this kind of along this vein, but it connects. Number 2, they always destroy you before they impact somebody else. Bitterness and resentment always destroys you before they impact somebody else. Bitterness and resentment always destroys you before it impacts somebody else. Okay? Bitterness, resentment always destroys you before it impacts somebody else. Okay? It always destroys you before it impacts somebody else. This is incredible. This is critically important to understand, because when you understand that, then you understand that the unresolved pain that you're dealing with, if you don't deal with it, and you think that dealing with it, the best way to deal with it is by how you respond to other people and handle other people, you're not going to hurt those people. You might offend those people. You might get those people upset. You might get those people mad, but you're not going to destroy them. Eventually, it's going to destroy you before it really truly impacts somebody else. And so you got to deal with that. You have to be incredibly honest with yourself and ask yourself, and I challenge all of you to ask yourself, am I allowing what offended me to change my character, to change my attitude, to change my disposition, to change my posture? Now, don't y'all get this fooled. Some of y'all think that because people aren't responding or reacting, that they are offended. That ain't true either. I was having this conversation with one of my young professionals we just recently hired. And I told him, I said, listen, you're going to even grow in corporate America and in higher ed, or whatever industry that you're in, to understand that part of emotional intelligence is being able to ride the middle. When something offends you, you don't have to, frown. When something excites you, you don't have to laugh and giggle. Part of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity is being able to be okay in the middle. And some of you have misdiagnosed folks. Besides the fact that you ain't been to school to be able to diagnose people, some of you have misdiagnosed folks because you think because quiet, they're offended. Being quiet does not mean you are offended. Being silent does not mean you are hurt or mad. It doesn't. It could simply mean that you're over it. It could simply mean that you're done. Some of y'all think people mad at you because they're quiet. They might be done. It ain't the same. Sometimes silence is offended. Sometimes silence is a reflection of being mad. Sometimes silence is just a reflection of folk moving on. So let's not twist these things, right? You gotta be careful diagnosing people and attempting to diagnose people and how people feel and how they respond to offense. But understand that when you are really dealing with resentment and bitterness, oftentimes it destroys you before it impacts somebody else. All right. And then here's the third way. Here's the third thing that makes resentment and bitterness dangerous. All right. I'm making good time. I can't believe I'm actually close to being on time tonight. The third thing that makes resentment and bitterness dangerous is this. They are always the reflection of internalized, unresolved pain. Okay? Resentment and bitterness. We kind of talked about this in the beginning of the broadcast. Resentment and bitterness, they are always the reflection of internalized, unresolved pain. Resentment, bitterness is always the reflection of internalized, unresolved pain. If you are living in a bitter place, in a bitter state in your life, you've got to deal with the pain in your life that is not resolved. Listen, I heard somebody on a podcast I was listening to this morning. He gave some of the best advice. He said everybody needs a teacher, everybody needs a mentor, everybody needs a counselor, everybody needs a therapist. I'll never forget. I ain't have to write that down. I remember that. So everybody needs a teacher, everybody needs a mentor, everybody needs a pastor, everybody needs a counselor, a therapist. Why? Because when you don't deal with, when you don't have those types of folks in your life, you end up going through things in your life where you get so much unresolved pain and so much unresolved hurt and struggle that if you don't allow one of those four types of people to help you through those things, they can form into resentment and bitterness. Everybody needs a teacher. Everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a pastor. Everybody needs a therapist. Because you really do not want to live your life where you are dealing with pain that you have internalized, right? That you have accepted internally, but you have not fully processed, you have not fully healed from. Okay. One of my goals for all of you, I want to say this and I'll end with this. One of my goals for all of you that are tuned in live, that are maybe watching the replay, one of the goals that I have for every one of you is that I want you this year to make it your business to find you a good therapist. All right. Make it your business to find you a good therapist. Make your business to find you a good, okay? Make it your business to find someone who does what you want to do, who does something similar to what you want to do, who's successful, that you can mirror your success and desired success after. Find you a good teacher. A teacher and a mentor aren't always the same person, aren't always the same skill set, believe it or not. A person can be a good mentor, not necessarily a great teacher. Get you somebody who can get in the trench and show you from. And I like that email. I'm glad to see that you got that done. This is so important because you've got to have. Oh, I just called it, Pastor. Done. I'm so slow. I'm so slow. I told you earlier this week, I am honored to be your pastor, and I mean that. Yeah, find you a good pastor, find you a mentor, find you a good teacher, find you a good therapist. All right? Find those four things. Anything that you are dealing with in your life that you have internalized that has been negative, that has been challenging. I know I'm slow. I had a blonde moment. That has been negative or that has been challenging you, you can resolve that unresolved pain so that it does not grow into resentment or bitterness. Listen, y'all, did this bless anybody tonight? Was this a blessing? I hope it blessed you the way it blessed me. I'm teaching, y'all. I love the hooping and preaching, the hollering and screaming at y'all, and that's all great. Have my moment here, but I enjoy teaching. I enjoy the power behind the conversation of teaching, and I'm so glad that you tuned in tonight. Really quickly, listen. If you've got a prayer request, I want you to type it in the comments really quickly. I want you to type it in the comments quickly. I want you to do this in the next 30 seconds. I want you to know every morning, 4:40 in the morning, the weather has obviously warmed here in North Carolina. It gets lighter sooner now, and I've gone back to incorporating a morning walk in my routine. And so I get up at 4:40. I pray. I work out. I get my kids up. That's my routine every day. But I don't even start my day without praying for you, without praying for your situation, your circumstances. So I want you to know, if you've got a prayer request, I want you to type it in the comments quickly. You know that I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you. Praying for your circumstance, whatever it is that you're dealing with, that God would make a way for you. Yes, praying for you. Those of you that have to go back for surgeries, that are dealing with health issues, health crises, that are dealing with financial career challenges. Whatever your challenge might be tonight, know that God is a way maker, a miracle keeper. He's the light at the tunnel, end of the tunnel of darkness. And I want you to hold on to that today. Listen, you got 15 seconds. Type in your prayer request quickly. Pray, sow a seed. I met with you. And then we're going to let you go tonight. All right, in your prayer request. Have you done it? All right. Listen, after you do it, I want you to connect your hands like this. Clasp your hands like this. It's a sign. Let's touch and agree really quickly tonight. Clasp your hands like this is a sign of symbol of faith after you type in your prayer. And let's pray together. Father in Jesus, thank you for your word. Thank you for a powerful conversation time, a discussion on resentment and bitterness, or of resentment, the power that resentment and bitterness has over our lives. If we don't deal with unresolved pain, help us, God, to recognize the strength of our humanity, that it is okay to be offended, but it is not okay to be defensive. Help us in a space where we are able to assess how things offend us, that we are able to connect sources that can help us work through the pain that we've experienced in our lives, so that, God, we can rely on you to work through the pain we've experienced in our lives, so that we can then become the version of us that we can. We don't want to allow anything that has harmed us to impact how we move forward, how we engage, move forward. So help us, God, position us to be honest about those things that offend us, to be honest about those things that have shaken us, so that we can be healed, whole, and complete, so that we can move forward in the direction you've called us to go. Now, for every prayer request that's been typed in this broadcast live, that's been typed in this replay, broadcast through the replay, that has been emailed to our inbox, we lift these prayer requests up to you now. We ask now that you would answer the prayers of your people as only you can. Make ways this week, open doors, meet needs, heal bodies, be with people in the courtroom, in the sick room, in the emergency room, in the operating room, in the corporate room, in the board room, whatever room we're in this week. I ask now that you would be with your people as only you can. Shield us and protect us, guide us, lead us, and give us the confidence and the strength to know that regardless of where we are, that you're always with us. And God, we'll continue to give your name glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Listen, you prayed that prayer with me. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to type in the comments quickly. It is so. Come on, hurry. I want you to type in the comments quickly. It is so. It is so. It is so. If you prayed that prayer of faith, I want you to type in the comments quickly. It is so. Every time you say amen, you are simply saying it is so. I want you to type it in the comments quickly. It is so. Come on, hurry. It is so. 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 God's going to make ways for you. He's going to open doors for you. He's going to meet needs for you. And I'm so excited about that tonight. Listen, let's prepare to sow a seed. We're going to sow a seed quickly. I've got a quick announcement to share with you, and then we're going to let you go. Listen, I want to challenge you to give tonight. If this message, if this ministry has been a blessing to you, I'm going to challenge you to give tonight. I want to challenge you to sow into the Rehab Christian Center. And we know God's going to bless you in a tremendous way. You should see on your screen the 3 ways that you can give. And I want to challenge you to give today. We know that if you give, God's going to bless you. How? Good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over. He'll send people into your life to be a blessing to you because of how you give. So you can give one of 3 ways. You can give via CashAPP, $REHABCCGIVE. You can give through our website, www.rehabcc.org, and simply choose online giving. Or you can text REHABWORKS to 336, I was about to say 88202, to 336-642-3210. That's 336-642-3210. You can text REHABWORKS to that number, and you will see a prompt that comes on your screen, and you follow the prompts, and you can give that way. It is so important. Again, you can give via CashAPP, $REHABCCGIVE. That's $REHABCCGIVE. You can give through our website, www.rehabcc.org. Or you can text REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. That's REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to our text messaging system. I think I told you falsely on Sunday. Somebody texted me and said, Pastor, it's not working. You don't text REHABCC to that number. You text REHAB to 336-642-3210. It's the same number we use for giving. If you text REHAB to that same number, just text REHAB to that number. you also will be able to receive alerts from our announcements that way. And you can give that way. Yes, Sister Ashley, you can give for the campaign the same way by texting REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. Now, I appreciate your giving. Let me share this quickly as a way of announcement. And Sister Ashley's question really is a good segue for this. You will see a video that will come on social media tonight. I need all of you to share the video. Some of y'all got nervous. I said video, and you thought it was TMZ style. I ain't got no scandals. Everything is good. But you're going to see a video that's going to come on social media tonight that is coming from me. We, as you know, we're preparing to relaunch on May the 15th in person. And part of that relaunch involved something that's really in my eye. Part of that relaunch involved our friends at New Zion, who have been gracious for the last couple of years to allow us to use their old sanctuary. It was built in 1931. And they've been gracious to allow us to use that sanctuary for many years. And part of the agreement of moving back in was providing them a list of items that needed to be repaired. And so we had a member, one of our members opened the door for them on Friday. They came in with their team and an inspector to inspect the space, and discovered some massive leaks in the building, not just in the sanctuary, but also throughout the building. Leaks that would cost New Zion, because they're the owners of the building, some upwards of more than $200,000 to repair. A lot of massive leaks, and that's an issue. But the bigger issue is that also located in the building was something that will not allow us to re-inhabit the building. If you've ever been involved in construction, you understand that there are certain substances and chemicals that if they get in the atmosphere of a building, particularly a very old building, that the city will render the building hazardous because of those chemicals. And that was discovered on Friday, received a phone call late yesterday that building is now hazardous. Our building, 1310, is now hazardous. We cannot occupy the building. Nobody can occupy the building. And what that means for rehab is two things. One, there won't be a in-person relaunch for our hybrid reopening on May the 15th. And the bigger thing is now we've got to find a new location. And I am really in a great place about this. Let me tell you why. I'm in a great place about this because, number one, New Zion. Let me say this out loud, and you'll see it in the video that I recorded last night. New Zion has been an incredible partner of the Rehab Christian Center. If you were with me when we were at 916th Street in Greensboro, that building was sold from under us. We were told by the building owner that we had 2 weeks to leave. He'd sold the building to a school, and I didn't know what we were going to do. And I just reached out to Reverend Wright and said, hey, can we just use 1310 till we figure it out? We got there, and the people liked it, and they liked us, and we ended up staying. And we were there for many years, almost. In fact, we were there the longest of any of our locations. That was our third location. If you are a part of Rehab, you started with us at the Donnacon Event Center. I think it was 2100 East Wendover Avenue was our first address. And so, we had great times there. But I've got to shout out New Zion because, they really could have been raggedy about this and just allowed us to come in, and the chemicals that have been discovered could have created some very serious health issues for our members and for our visitors, if not in the immediate future, in the years to come, that could have created some very serious issues down the road for Rehab Christian Center as a corporation. And so we're very grateful for New Zion. And I told them I was going to say this publicly, and I meant it. I'm very grateful, publicly grateful for New Zion, because they have been what I call a true brother and a true sister in Christ. And they've really handled us as just incredible partners. And they've done so much for rehab. And, even when I received the call, Trustee Moore, bless her heart, was almost in tears. And I'm like, what are you upset for? There's nothing to be upset about. We can't say we believe Romans 8:28 and then don't believe it. All things literally do work together for the good of them that love God. You got to know that and be okay. And so It's bittersweet. I'm gonna miss that place. But one thing I can say about New Zion, we had not been in that building for 2 years, and I know pastors from all over the city, locally and regionally. We're trying to literally get in that building, and New Zion will let nobody touch it. They love our ministry, and we are so grateful for that. But y'all, I ain't putting y'all in no space like that. We can't even go in that space, even if I wanted to. And so it is a hazardous space now. I don't know if they're going to knock the building down, what's going to happen. But I want you to be prayerful for New Zion, okay? Be prayerful for them because they've got a big decision. There's a lot of history associated with that building and that space. And they've got a major decision to make about that building because the repairs are going to literally be in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands for this big issue that they've discovered, in addition to the water leakage and some other problems that they've got there. And so be prayerful for them that they make the right decision, what's best for them. They've assured us that our equipment and things like that are safe there. And so we're going to keep our equipment there while we then to locate another location. And I'm of the belief that, again, everything works out the way it should. We're going to be looking feverishly. I'll be honest with you. I've had so many things going on that I've really needed just a day or two to breathe and really process everything that's happening. But really about to hit the pavement and see what we can find. I'll make you this promise. I'm not going to rush into anything. I want our next location, frankly, to be our last one. That's just where I am. I don't really care who doesn't agree with that. And I want our next location to be the location that really reflects the heart and the spirit of what Rehab is, right? The city's church, perfect place for imperfect people. All right. And so I wanted to share that with you personally before you saw the video tonight. And I want to encourage you to continue to give. Here's the good news. We're still going to need capital. We're still going to need capital. Many of the things that we have in our building, we're going to be able to take with us. But depending on the type of building that we get, there's a really high likelihood we're going to need chairs. For what I have in terms of a vision, what rehab will look like now and in the future, I'm quite sure we're going to need chairs somewhere. All right. And so the capital campaign will continue. I want to challenge you to continue to give. We'll probably change that $6,000 goal. And we're going to be even more aggressive, continue to give and prepare. And what we'll do in the meantime is continue to be in the virtual space. One thing COVID has revealed to all of us is that you can still teach and empower people in a virtual space. And so we've been here before. It's a part of our hybrid makeup going up into the future. And so this won't be anything new for us. But I'm going to be patient but persistent at the same time. I want to make sure that we have the right place. We will get the right place. We'll identify that, hopefully be able to strike a deal. Once we do, then we will begin the transition there. We'll do the launch and we will continue forward. So it's okay. Everything is okay. This isn't a denial. This is a delay. But I'm just so eternally grateful. I can't say this enough for New Zion Missionary Baptist Church, the Reverend William Wright. Those folks are just incredibly kind to Rehab and Rehab. They're kind to us. They love me like a son. And they've proven that once again. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that it stopped when it did, and that this harvest of people weren't moved back in there with all of the potential damage that could have. All right. And so everything works out the way it should. And I want you to be encouraged to know that in your personal life. All right. So give, continue to give. You'll see some new flyers out there that show delayed there. The moving canceled. Don't want you to be alarmed. I want you to share the video, share it with your friends, family members. I've already personally shared it with folks. I had folks coming from Atlanta and Texas, possibly New York, folks coming in from other states. And I personally reached out to them to just make sure, if they bought tickets, hopefully they are refundable. Those types of things. If they're not, then I might just find a place on the 15th to meet them and teach. I'm serious. We have supporters and partners from all over this country now as a result of COVID. And so please spread the word to your friends, your family members, your neighbors, folks that were excited about the relaunch, and tell them we're still coming. Just don't know when. We're going to look for a location. We're going to find a location that's suitable for us. And we'll continue to come back, and we'll come back not only better than ever, but more innovative than we've ever been before. All right. So that's all I got. All right. I love y'all. I did not mean to run this far over. I love y'all. I'm praying for y'all. And I'm rooting for you. And I want you to have a tremendous week and make plans to meet me this Sunday, 9:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. right here at the Rehab Christian Center for our Sunday morning experience. All right. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for watching the Rehab Christian Center live experience. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you and you would like to be a blessing to our leader, Dr. Zeb Talley III, you can sow a seed into his ministry by CashAPP at $Pastor ZT3. It is our prayer that this message of hope encourage, enlighten, and empower you to be better. Please tune in Sunday at 9:08 a.m. for our Sunday morning experience. And as always, be blessed and have a wonderful week.